I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong. And made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. I hope that they can forgive me.
So, the 2006 Duke University lacrosse scandal. Y'all, it's back in the news again. And this is a case that actually destroyed lives. It destroyed lives. It captivated the nation and fueled heated debates about race and class and justice. And recently, it has taken a shocking turn nearly 20 years later. So some of you guys may be too young. If you're some of my younger audience, you may not be familiar with this story, but Crystal Mangum, she is the woman who accused 3 Duke lacrosse players of rape. And now she has admitted that she lied. Who knew, right? The way the mainstream media handled this case, whether you were looking at it back then or looking at it now, it was horrible. I mean, horrible. It was just bad. Now, you guys, the media, they presented this story as 3 white males by the names of David Evans, Reed Seligman, and Colin Finnerty. These guys were presented as gentlemen from privileged backgrounds at an elite university, apparently taking advantage of a student and single mother by the name of Crystal Mangum from, a crosstown black college, NCCU to be specific. And the way the story was framed is if this was, this young girl just trying to make ends meet by working as a stripper and an escort. Now, you guys know I'm a Christian, okay? Y'all already know how this goes, and you already know that all I care about is the truth. I'm really not interested in how you feel. I'm not interested in your melanin worship or bias. All I care about are the things that align with the objective standard of truth, which is the word of God. So here it goes. I've got lots of things to say about this. And if you're familiar with my content, you may already know what I am going to say. But this entire case from start to finish should make all of us recalibrate and focus on what the Bible tells us that we should be focusing on. That is this thing called your character, right? Character matters. And I want to spend some time talking to you about character. I'm going to show you guys some news clips, but let me go ahead and read to you. What is character? Character refers to who you are at your core. It's those distinctive qualities or traits that make up your identity and that drive you to do or not to do the things that you do. So in the case of Crystal Mangum, she was presented as this poor black female who was a single mother who decided to be a stripper and an escort to pay her way through school. Now, in modern American society, because we've fallen so deep into the depths of our depravity, we are so depraved and just backwards that we would look at behavior like that as a virtue. Like we'd say, see, this woman is a go-getter, right? She's working hard, wants to create a better life for her and her kid by going to college and doing the best that she can. So she's going to be a stripper to work her way through school. Listen, I'm no prude, okay? I went to Spelman College, which is smack dead in the middle of Southwest Atlanta. And there were quite a few chicks on our campus that was doing something strange for some change to pay their way through the overpriced and expensive Spelman College. Listen, we all were struggling. I ain't about to go to Magic City for this balance. So I said, I got to find a way or make a way. And I figured it out. And do you know what? I didn't think it was cool then, and I sure don't think it's cool now to choose to be a stripper to pay your way through school. Why? Because character matters. Character matters. I'm not standing on this high horse like I had it all together back then, because we all have been young and dumb at some point. However, Spelman was expensive. And yes, Magic City was one of the top strip clubs not that far from Spelman College. But there were a myriad of things that young girls could do to earn income, and stripping on a pole should never be one of them. I don't care how down bad you are. It's just not an option. Listen, I didn't have to be sliding up and down somebody's pole. One, my mama was alive and she would have killed me if she found out. And two, even when a person is spiritually dead, dead in their sins and their trespasses, parents, even unbelieving parents, have the capacity to teach their children about the importance of character. And so we're going to talk a lot about character in a bit. But right now, let's go ahead. We're going to break down this story, and we're going to explore what this means for the accused, right? We're going to explore what this means for Crystal Mangum, and then the implications for our broader culture. So what do we know? We know that in a recent podcast interview, we know that Crystal Mangum confessed that her accusations against the Duke Lacrosse players, David Evans, Colin Finnerty, and Reed, I don't even know if I'm saying his name correctly, Reed Seligman, were false. Here are her exact words. Quote, this is what she says. I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. This is what she said. Then she goes, I made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. Now, she went on to express remorse, asking for forgiveness from the men that she falsely accused, their families, and anyone whose trust that she betrayed. Now, y'all know, as a Christian, even this is hard for me to swallow. This was hard for me because my faith teaches me to forgive the trespasses of others. And as my heavenly Father in heaven has forgiven me, I am to exhibit that same level of forgiveness. Trust me, I know the text. I know the admonition well. We are supposed to forgive 70 times 70. But let me tell you, I struggled and I'm still struggling with this because in my flesh, this story is jacked up. It's jacked up because of our obsession with race and this nation's willingness to believe a lie instead of seeking out the truth. People's lives were ruined and they continue to be ruined behind situations like this or ones that are similar to it. This story never had any legs to stand on, and never held any legal or criminal weight. And the facts of this case never truly lined up. And so many people knew that this chick was lying, right? I have talked to individuals who remember the situation back then, and they're like, I told you, I've been saying this since Jesus was an infant, that girl was lying. But none of that mattered. Believe all women. I've never met a grape victim that was lying. She's a single mom. 3 white boys have privilege. She's poor and she's a stripper. Just believe her. We don't, victim shame. We don't do that. Listen, they just wanted us to just believe her. My question is, what if one of these young men were one of your sons? Because I have 2 sons. And I love my boys to pieces. I would die for them little boys. Actually, they're big boys because they're bigger than me, but I would die for my kids. And I wish some orangutan whoremonger stripper would accuse my boys of a heinous crime such as rape. Y'all would have to lock me up. You'd have to lock me up and throw away the key because of what I would have done to the accuser. I'm not saying it's right. I'm telling you, I would go ape crazy because I know my boys. I have raised them to be respectable young men of good character. And no, our children are not perfect, and all of us are depraved, and we're just not as wicked as we could be. But for someone to come along to try to destroy their lives because they can't manage their misery, you talking about restraint of the Holy Spirit, baby. You don't want to see Mama Bear come out. You don't want to meet that chick. Because somebody going to jail, and it's probably going to be me. I'm just saying. I'm going to just let y'all know, clink, clink, get the handcuffs ready because I'm going to get booked tonight. So we're going to move right along. Here's what we know. After the recent podcast, when Crystal Mangum, she confesses. She says that, I wanted validation and this was wrong and it wasn't okay. So this is what ends up happening. In 2007, the North Carolina Attorney General dismissed the charges. That's what happened. The charges got dismissed. They declared the players innocent, citing, wait for it, a lack of evidence. So next year, the guys are innocent because of a lack of evidence. So I'm like, well, I'll be darned. Ain't like we don't know this. It's not like we never saw the fact that there was a lack of evidence. But just like that, it just goes away. And now it gets even better. We can't forget the fallout for Durham's district attorney, Mike Nefong. So this joker was disbarred and convicted of criminal contempt for the way that he handled the case. Let me go ahead and show you guys this Fox News story.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong, and made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. I hope that they can forgive me.
After 18 years, the former stripper in the Duke Lacrosse scandal admits she made it all up. Back in 2006, Crystal Mangum accused 3 Duke University lacrosse players of raping her at a team party where she performed. Today, she says she lied about it. It was a case that captivated the nation. The 3 students were charged with multiple counts despite the absence of concrete evidence. They were eventually exonerated, but their lives were forever changed. Robert Schulk is a defense attorney and former prosecutor. Bob, so let's walk through this with me. So she is currently in prison for second-degree murder of her boyfriend, but could she face any new charges connected to these false allegations?
Arthel, unfortunately, I don't think that she can. The statute of limitations for perjury has run for purposes of this state. So even though she admitted that she lied and she ruined the lives of 3 college kids, I don't see any possible criminal charges coming her way. And civilly, I mean, obviously, the 3 gentlemen, Mr. Seligman, Mr. Evans, and Mr. Finnerty, had a lawsuit against Duke University, which was settled for an undisclosed amount, and they've moved on with their lives. I mean, they're not going to bring a lawsuit against an individual who's incarcerated for murder, who likely doesn't have any assets. And likely they don't want to begin, bring these facts up again and going to court and fighting anything. I'm sure they've moved on with their lives. But again, at what cost? I mean, it cost them a great deal that an individual went to court and swore under oath that a rape occurred that never did.
I want to read a quote from then North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper. This was in 2007 on declining to prosecute Crystal Mangum for perjury. It says, quote, "Our investigators who talk with her and the attorneys who talk with her over a period of time think that she may actually believe the many different stories that she has been telling. We believe it's in the best interest of justice not to bring charges." So, Bob, I ask you now, was that the right decision at that time? And will this case prompt a change in perjury laws?
I could not disagree with that analysis more. They had ATM footage of one of these individuals, one of these men, these Duke students, at an ATM at the time that she said it happened. Prosecutors all over the country and prosecutors' offices are afraid to prosecute perjury cases. They feel as if they're doing some disservice to the criminal justice system. Think about, I'm a former prosecutor and now I'm a defense attorney. The hardest thing to do in court is to prove someone's lying by asking a question. They had concrete evidence that she was lying at the time, and they had such a black eye from what Mike Nifong did, hiding evidence and losing his license and doing a night in jail, that they just didn't want to bring any more media attention to it. They were afraid to do the right thing, and that's what is disgusting, in my opinion, as it pertains to this case. As it pertains to changes in the law, if I'm a politician in the state of North Carolina, I immediately, this year, 2025, the fact that this has come to light with this apology, too little too late, in my opinion, but this apology, you need to petition the state and put together a bill which extends the statute of limitations almost infinitely, so that individuals who are wronged and lies are committed and they are brought into court can still be prosecuted years later. They've changed statutes for rape cases and child victims cases such as this, and I think now is the time to do it, and I hope other states follow.
Well, there is another statement I want to read. This is from James Cooney. He's an attorney who represented Duke lacrosse player Reed Seligman, and he was reacting to Mangum's apology. He says, quote, "We obviously," this is yesterday, he says, obviously, we'd known all along she was lying. In some sense, it's nice to see her let the public know there was just this enormous path of destruction. I think she's beginning to realize kind of the enormity of what she caused." So Crystal Mangum has asked the former lacrosse players to forgive her. But how can those players and others who lost their job in the process regrow the scorched earth her testimony created?
They can't. I mean, you had three men lose the ability to attend one of the most prestigious universities in the country at Duke. They were thrown off one of the best college lacrosse programs that has ever existed. Duke lacrosse is in the top 10 every single year. They're a phenomenal program. You had lacrosse coaches lose jobs. You had administrators at schools lose jobs. Duke lost millions of dollars. These kids' reputations, it doesn't matter that they were exonerated at a later date. If you were to Google their names, this is the first thing that's going to come up for every job search. You cannot scrub the internet. And the court of public opinion is very damning, regardless of whether you're exonerated or not. And these are the types of allegations that prevent people from getting jobs and will follow you forever. So unfortunately, there's the apology, as the lawyer for Mr. Seligman indicated, is obviously appreciated at this late stage, but they knew the truth all along. And as you indicated, there's no way she can put the toothpaste back in the tube. She lied. It was out. You can't put it back in. And she can't, fix the harm that she did.
Bob, finally, how does this impact defense of actual rape victims?
It's very difficult, Arthur. When you go into a courtroom and lawyers have different jobs, prosecutors have a job, defense attorneys have a job. And as I indicated earlier, the hardest thing to do is to prove that an individual is lying. The only thing we can rely on is that the prosecutors learn from the Mike Nifong situation and they do their jobs the right way. And the best part about being a prosecutor, as I was one before, is that if the individual you are prosecuting is innocent or someone has lied against them, you get to open the door and let them go free and right that wrong. And that's what didn't happen here. And that is why we're still talking about it all these years later. And you just hope that young lawyers are educated in law school about specifically this case and the roles everyone played and how they should take that moving forward in their career so things like this don't happen again.
All right, you guys. So I went ahead and I let all of that play because I thought it was important to listen to what this attorney brought up. But I thought it was interesting that he said in 2007, which was a year after the accusation, they could have easily charged her with perjury, and they chose not to. And I'm inclined to believe that the reason why they knew in 2007 that she was lying, and they chose not to pursue the perjury charges because this has created such an ethnic firestorm, and so many lives were destroyed and jobs were lost, and the media was complicit in pushing the race-based narrative that we're going to discuss, that had they pursued her for perjury, it would have turned into a whole nother firestorm of, see, y'all just being racist. It's just cause she black and it's cause she a stripper. And they would have come up with all sorts of excuses to alleviate her of the responsibility of dealing with the repercussions and the consequences of her bad choices. And that leads me to what this whole video is actually about.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me. And made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. And that was wrong when God already loved me for who I was, regardless. I didn't need to seek validation from him because I already had validation from him. I just didn't know it. And I hurt my brothers. And I hope that they can forgive me. And I want them to know that I love them. And they didn't deserve that. And I hope they can forgive me. And that I hope that they can heal and trust God and know that God loves them, and that God is loving them through me, letting them know that they're valuable and that they didn't deserve that.
I told y'all this was hard for me. It's hard because I'm sitting here as a Christian content creator trying to, listen to her words and want, you want to believe a person. It's just, I need to at least be honest and transparent and say in my flesh, because of all of the destruction that this caused, and then how long it took for her to finally come out and tell the truth when, she knew from the jump that this was a lie. And I'm struggling. So y'all just gonna have to struggle with me. I don't know where you are on your sanctification journey. I'm just letting you know where I am. I get it. Understand the biblical admonition. But your girl is struggling, okay? So, Crystal Mangum's admission of guilt. Significant questions that all of this raises. First, what does this mean for the lives, the men whose lives were ended, destroyed, and just turned topsy-turvy upside down by her false claims and accusation? Like, we need to examine that, right? Their lives were upended by her false claims. And then second, how should we as a society, how do we balance, right? The idea that, we are supposed to forgive, and, we're supposed to be long-suffering and forbear, and people deserve second chances. Like, there's so many questions that need to be examined here. But another one I want to bring up is how does we as a society, how do we balance the pursuit of justice with the presumption of innocence? Right? Because it seems that the media was ready to just assume that this had to do with racism, and it's the poor black stripper girl trying to work her way through college, and these are just some white privileged boys who were just taking advantage of her. Right? And third, how do we as Christians, how do we respond to stories like this, both in terms of seeking truth and offering forgiveness? This is a stark reminder of the human tendency for us to seek affirmation in all of the wrong places. What I find interesting is that I know y'all feel some sort of kind of way when I refer to people as orangutans. And I know y'all are like, it's comical, and some of y'all absolutely hate the term, but I need you to hear my heart and understand why I came up with this term, because it really has so much weight. So when I define the term orangutan, it's a female imbecile who cannot manage her misery. And what happens is this is not an external visual characteristic. It is a behavioral one. And what happens with the orangutans, because they can't manage their misery, chaos is all around them. They create chaos, they show out, they do all kinds of sinful, wicked things that hurt other people, all because they can't manage their misery. So I know the term orangutan is an inflammatory term, and I've defined it. Like I said, it's the female imbecile who can't manage their misery. And so the chaos that they create, it's a reflection of what's going on inside of them, right? The orangutan energy, it has sweeping consequences, right? And the consequences that ensue, it's not just for the orangutan, but it's for the people in their lives and the people who have to experience their brokenness in real time. So the reason why I discuss race and ethnicity so much on this channel is because I have become keenly aware, particularly the older that I get, that ethnicity has become one of the most primary idols in the lives of so many people who look like me. And I've realized that it is a stumbling block that leads to so many problems. What do I mean? I want to read you guys a scripture real quick. Galatians 1:10 says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." You guys, Crystal Mangum's acknowledgement of her need for God's validation points to a deeper truth. One, only God can fill the void that leads us to make destructive choices. So the desire to please man or to seek validation and approval of man never ends well. Why? Because we were created to please and glorify God and God alone. We do what pleases him. We do what pleases him, which in turn impacts how we deal with and interact with others. So culture today is teaching people, especially Black people, that you have to amplify and create these artificial weights. You have to erect these imaginary barriers on the account of their skin color or their gender or their sexual orientation. And then to use said artificial weights, you use it as a crutch. You use it as this imaginary barrier to extort, to falsely accuse, and to avoid accountability and personal responsibility for everything that you do. They always give us race. They give us race, ethnicity as this fallback position, and they use it because when they point to race, they know everybody's going to listen. They know if they just say this was racially motivated, that it's going to garner the attention of the people, and people's ears are going to perk up and listen and pay attention because they're like, well, you know, it's always racist. It's always somebody being racist. Listen, people like Al Sharpton and Jamal Bryant, all of those pimp civil rights leaders and fake preachers, they always want to capitalize off of lies and push these false narratives that involve black and white people because the race narrative sells. For example, if Daniel Penny was black, and what he did to Jordan Neely happened exactly the way it did, we wouldn't have never heard about the story. But because Daniel Penny was white, it had to have been race. Forget the fact that that boy was threatening other black people on the train. It didn't matter. Daniel Penny was white, so therefore it had to have been racially motivated. The issue is sometimes, and I think it's important, character has to be evaluated all the time. It needs to be a component that we examine and look at because it can give you a lot of insight and tell you a lot about a person. Why am I bringing all of this up? Because this stripper knew. She knew that she could holler and pull the race card, and everything about her character would get ignored and glossed over as if it really wasn't that important. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. That is the assertion that I am making. They knew, she knew, I believe everyone who was supporting her knew that if we make this about race, everything about her character would be ignored. She knew that there was some race-trading pulpit pimp and low-down civil rights worker that would be eager to jump on the bandwagon and champion her because she, like so many Black Americans, we have been taught and trained to use ethnicity. That's your trump. That's your get out of jail free card. That's your trump card to overshadow the lack of character and deficiencies in virtue that you may have. This chick had a lot of issues. She had a whole lot of stuff going on. Yes, she was a single mom, but she was also a stripper and an escort and had a history of issues that probably led her down this path. And now we've learned she's currently serving time in prison for stabbing a boyfriend and murder, like she killed him. But we are trained. And obligated that no matter how poor your character is, no matter what you are failing to do or not do in your life, if you didn't graduate high school, if your mama is a crackhead, if your daddy was a pimp, if you didn't get picked for the varsity team, they didn't let you sing the lead solo at church, it don't matter what it is. You are never responsible for your own actions, and therefore it's okay to use your race as the reason and the crutch for why you may be failing in the character department. That's why I want to talk about this tonight, because don't you guys know? Y'all don't know that race is the most important attribute ever? Yes! Your ethnicity is the most important attribute about yourself. This is what they want you to believe. The way our kids and the way our young people have been taught and trained and indoctrinated, and how we are raising them to believe, and we are crippling them over this ideology because they are being told that it's not your character that matters. It's your ethnicity. It's your ethnicity, and they are not stressing the importance of you got to lead with good character. Instead, they are being told that it's their ethnicity that's the most important. And I'm here to tell you, ethnicity is nothing more than a reflection of God's glory. I say it all the time. It is not something to be used as an excuse or to be pitied. Full stop. If somebody don't like you because of your ethnicity, who the heck cares? So what? So what? But what are we teaching our children? We're teaching them that if somebody doesn't like them because of their race, that now they need to go and march. They need to go and demand what they want. They want to burn the city down. Okay. They want to sue. Let's go ahead and draw up the papers. They want to do everything. And they want to train our children to do everything except look at themselves and to self-reflect. They're just going to keep going to the well of the race grievance, lowering down that bucket and just drinking from it. Well, we've done that. We've been doing that probably for the past 12 years, and now something is happening. We are seeing that the well is starting to dry up. The ground underneath is parched. Not too many people are listening anymore to the people who keep crying wolf. That's what we're starting to see. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that the crying of the wolf has gotten to the point that people are like, you know what? I'm tired of all this lying. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.